I'm 22 years old, and I just uncovered a truth that has shattered my world. My boyfriend, who's 24, has been lying to me and cheating on me, and I have no idea how long this has been going on. The realization has left me feeling like I'm standing in the middle of a collapsing building, with no safe place to turn. It's as if my entire sense of reality has been upended. I've always trusted him, believed in him, but now I can't help but wonder what was real in the years we spent together. How did I miss all the signs? Was I blind, or was I just desperate to hold on to the love I thought we shared? It all began so innocently, so mundanely, that I almost can't believe how quickly things spiraled out of control. I was at his place, as I often was, working on some homework while he napped peacefully on the couch. The soft rise and fall of his chest, his rhythmic breathing, was a comforting background noise as I typed away on my laptop, my thoughts preoccupied with an upcoming deadline. His phone lay face up on the table next to me, a silent companion to the scene. I hadn't given it a second thought. For the past year, I hadn't felt the need to check his phone. We had outgrown that immature phase of paranoia, or so I thought. He didn't check my phone, and I had stopped checking his. We had built what I thought was a solid foundation of trust. But then it happened. His phone lit up with a text message, its sudden brightness catching my eye. Without thinking, my gaze flicked to the screen. The sender was someone I recognized, a name from the past, a girl I'll call Penny. The sight of her name instantly triggered a wave of confusion. Penny was someone he had mentioned briefly when we first started dating, but as far as I knew, she wasn't part of his life anymore. She was just a passing character in the story of his past, someone irrelevant to our present. She'd never been someone he talked about in any detail, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But now, seeing her name pop up like that felt wrong, like a crack in the foundation that was suddenly widening. Curiosity, that double-edged sword, got the better of me. Despite the nagging voice in my head warning me not to snoop, I picked up his phone and opened the message. It was just a single text, nothing remarkable on its own. But something about it felt off. I couldn't explain it, it was just a gut feeling, an instinct that something wasn't right. The kind of feeling you get when you're walking through a room and suddenly notice something out of place. That's when I noticed the recently deleted messages folder. I hadn't even known such a folder existed until that moment. My heart began to race as I tapped on it, a mix of dread and determination swirling within me. The folder wasn't empty. Instead, it contained weeks, maybe months, of deleted conversations. Most of them were between him and Penny. The messages painted a picture I didn't want to see. They had been texting constantly, far more than I ever would have imagined. From their exchanges, it was clear they had met up multiple times. The timestamps on the messages were what hit me the hardest. He'd been texting her at 1 or 2 in the morning, sometimes before even reaching out to me. And the messages? They were casual but pointed. "I'm leaving the house." And, "Me too." My mind raced, filling in the blanks with scenarios I didn't want to believe, scenarios I never wanted to imagine in my worst nightmare. Had he been seeing her when he told me he was busy with work or out with friends? How could he lie to me like this, over and over again? But it didn't stop there. As I continued scrolling through the deleted messages, I came across another name, Jenny. This one didn't ring any bells, and that somehow made it worse. Who was she? I clicked on their conversation, and the first message I saw left me breathless. It read, "I'm glad I stopped by to see you. I didn't realize how much I miss you until I saw you again. I was completely mesmerized and couldn't stop smiling." It was nauseatingly romantic, the kind of message that should have been reserved for me, his girlfriend. A deep feeling of betrayal gnawed at me. He was sending this kind of message to someone else, to someone I didn't even know. To make matters worse, she had liked the message, and there was another text from him to her, sent just last Saturday at midnight. I had been out with my friends that night, blissfully unaware of what he was doing. What else had I missed? What else had he been hiding from me? When he woke up, I confronted him. I started off calmly, giving him a chance to come clean. I asked if there was anything he wanted to tell me, He looked confused, genuinely surprised, and said, "Oh, I saw Penny today." That was it. No elaboration, no acknowledgement of what I had found. I pressed him further, asking if there was anything else. His face froze, and his words faltered. He admitted they had been talking recently but insisted it was innocent. I didn't believe him. My instincts were screaming at me that there was more, that he was lying. I asked again, and he swore that was all. That's when I pulled out my phone and showed him the text to Jenny. His face went pale, and he fell silent. The air between us grew thick with tension. I could see it in his eyes. He knew he was caught. I demanded to know who Jenny was. He mumbled something about her being an old coworker. When I asked when they had worked together, he claimed it was back in 2019, before we met. That was a lie, and I knew it. I'd seen a group chat with him, Jenny, and his former boss from a job he'd held just last year. I had driven him to the interview for that job myself. He had barely lasted a year there before moving on to his current position. How could he sit there and lie to me so easily? How could he think I wouldn't know the truth when I had lived through it all? When I called him out on the lie, he finally broke down and confessed. He admitted that Jenny was a coworker he had a crush on. He claimed it started after a fight we had over the phone while he was at work. He said he confided in her, and she began flirting with him. Instead of shutting it down, he flirted back. Eventually, she asked him to visit her after he left that job, and he did. That's when he sent her the message I had found. The weight of his words crashed down on me, and I felt like I was drowning. I had trusted him, believed in him. How could he do this to me? I felt utterly blindsided. Up until that moment, I had believed we were in a happy, healthy relationship. This revelation brought back painful memories of my past. My previous boyfriend had also cheated on me, and that relationship had lasted years. I thought I had moved on, learned to trust again, and found someone who truly valued me. Now, I was questioning everything. Was I naive? Was I doomed to repeat the same mistakes with different people? The trust one had built, the hope I had held for a future together, now felt like shattered glass beneath my feet. It was all broken, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. In the days that followed, I signed up for therapy. I had been considering it for other reasons, but this was the final straw. I couldn't hold myself together anymore. I needed help to process everything, not just this betrayal but also the patterns in my relationships that had led me here. I felt like a fool for trusting him, for believing in the future he had painted for us. He had talked about buying a house together, getting engaged, starting a family. All of it felt like a cruel joke now. How could he have made all those promises, knowing he was already betraying me behind my back? I told him it was over. But he didn't take it well. He started calling me nonstop, showing up at my house with flowers, begging for another chance. He said he was sorry, that he would do anything to fix this. He begged me to forgive him, promised that he would change. I ignored his calls and didn't respond to his messages, but last night, he crossed the line. While I was out to dinner, he came to my house and blew up my phone with calls and texts. After dinner, I texted him to meet me at a local bar so I could tell him, face to face, to leave me alone. When we met, he was desperate. He begged, pleaded, and promised to do whatever it took to fix things. He said he'd go to therapy, that he was fighting for us. But his words felt hollow. If he had truly cared about our relationship, we wouldn't have been in this situation to begin with. I told him as much. I explained that I could never look at him the same way again. The trust was gone, and with it, the love I had once felt. All that remained was resentment and disappointment. The hardest part of all this is that he was my best friend. Losing him feels like losing a part of myself. I never imagined this would be the outcome. But I can't ignore what he did. He didn't just betray me, he lied repeatedly, even when confronted with the truth. His actions spoke louder than any of his apologies ever could. I don't know if he'll ever truly understand the damage he's caused, but I know I can't stay with someone who hurt me like this. Now I'm left with so many questions. Am I wrong for walking away? Should I have shown him mercy? Or am I finally standing up for myself after years of accepting less than I deserve? Only time will tell if I made the right choice, but for now, I'm choosing to prioritize my own well-being. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but deep down, I know it's the right thing to do. And maybe, just maybe, I'll learn to trust again. But for now, I need to heal. And that starts with letting go.